Well, it's the video you've all been waiting for. Our trailer reaction to Geostorm. I'm kidding, we're actually here doing the post-Geekout reaction for Spider-Man Homecoming, but that trailer came on before the movie. Oh my god, that looks dumb. Oh my god.
Even the name Geostorm is dumb.
I can't wait. I love me some bad movies. Oh my god, it's hilarious. Like, literally, when it came up and said from the creators of Independence Day, you literally laughed out loud in the theater.
Yeah.
And I was holding back myself. Anyway, this is the post-Geekout reaction for Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And in case you have not seen a post-Geekout reaction before, everybody at home, say it with me. The post-Geekout reaction is not a review. In the review, I write everything out, think of everything I want to say, and it is spoiler-free. This is just our open, honest discussion about the thing that we just watched, and that does include full spoilers. So if you have not seen the film and you want to know our thoughts, come back later this weekend when I have the official spoiler-free review go up. Everybody good? Okay, for everybody who's sticking around, I'm assuming you've all seen Spider-Man Homecoming. Even if you haven't, though, I will go ahead and admit, there aren't a lot of big twists in here. There's really only one huge twist. And it happened, I have been holding a bathroom break-in for like 45 minutes in this thing. And then I was like, okay, now's the moment when he's going to the dance. There's a little montage of him getting ready. Now's my time to go. I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go. I come back. The big twist happened during there, and I spent like the next 2 minutes of the scene going, what the hell is this at? What is it? And then she like says like one thing during that, and I was like, oh!
Yeah, I felt so sorry because it's like, I could tell you were holding it in. It's like, oh, nothing big is gonna happen. It's like, oh, and then...
Yeah, I was doing a little squirmy thing. Cause yeah, though...
I wasn't sure if I should have turned to you and said, oh, by the way, this guy is this, and...
I thought, yeah, we will get to it in a moment for anybody who has decided, well, I haven't seen it, but I still want to know what it's about, and I don't care about spoilers, we'll kind of get into it a little bit.
Yeah, but I figured,
But I thought, why is he the chauffeur for this? Why is he like the limo driver right now? Why would he be working on the side as a limo driver? He's got his own thing going on. Then she says, like, then she actually calls him who he is, and I'm like, oh, snap.
Yeah, I was like, I'll let him figure it out on his own. It's like, eventually they're gonna...
they'll say it, yeah. But okay, before we get into this, I'm just going to let you guys know. I said, jokingly, this is the moment you've all been waiting for, because for anybody who is a longtime fan of this channel, you know Spider-Man is my guy. That is my favorite superhero out there. I love Spider-Man. I love Peter Parker. So this is, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I'm not even gonna BS you. Literally, when this opened up and it had the Marvel logo come up, but instead of the normal Avengers theme song playing during it, they had the Spider-Man, like, I could, like, and literally a tear came down. Like, I am not kidding you. I literally started to cry that because, like, my boy is home. He's finally home, everybody.
That's why it's called Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, they were like, they knew what they were doing.
Although this happened to occur during Homecoming.
Well, they weren't going to just call it Homecoming and then, like, of course it happened during that. But that's their little wink and nod to the audience of, like, you know what this actually means, right? Yeah, we ain't BSing. You know why we're actually calling this Homecoming. And man, here's the thing. I am such a Spider-Man fanboy that I have liked every Spider-Man film after I got out of the theater. And the whole point of this show is to talk about after we get out of the theater. But it's typically like within a couple days to a week to a month after I see the film that I start going, yeah, you know, I guess it wasn't that great. It had some problems. Like, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is probably the worst of the Spider-Man films. Like, it and Spider-Man 3 are neck and neck, but I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a little bit worse. I even liked Amazing Spider-Man 2 when I walked out of that theater. Like, you know what, the Green Goblin stuff was stupid, it was just crammed in there, but man, everything else, nailed it. You were on target for a Spider-Man film. You were what you needed to be. It wasn't until like a week later I was like, that movie was dumb. That movie sucked. So I also want to let you guys know, yeah, I'm gonna be positive on this. I do have critiques though. Like, I honestly think that after being burned so many times before, and now that I am a little bit more, like, I'm starting to be a critic for a living here, I have had to, like, kind of force myself to kind of go, no, tap it down, like,
you gotta be more cautious.
Yeah, like, I've been burned before is what I'm trying to say. So, I don't know if I'm going to be overly critical of this because I've been burned before and I'm looking for things to critique, or if I'm going to be overly positive on this thing because I'm just a Marvel fanboy and a Spider-Man fanboy, and this is those two things slamming together. Because like, yeah, man, it just felt good to know like he can play with the other heroes. But also like the Sony films, the Sony Spider-Man films, you can tell they get guys in there who are Spider-Man fans, but you can also tell that Sony is coming in and going, it's like, yeah, this is the equation for how to make a film. We need to make sure that we do this. And like the Fox films, you can tell occasionally they'll get someone who knows what they're doing. Ryan Reynolds knew what he was doing with Deadpool. Whoever made Logan knew what he was doing with Logan. But for the vast majority of all the Fox films, they don't know what the hell they're doing with those characters. They don't give a crap about them either. They just make the films so that way they can keep holding on to the rights. Like, you can tell the Fox guys do not care, and when they do make a good film, it's because they just kind of happen to fall ass backwards into it, or they just gave up and said, I don't know, you do something with it. And the person they handed it to, they cared. But Marvel freaking cares. Marvel cares about these characters, and that is the first thing that I will say right off the bat about this film. I may have some problems with like where the story goes or like certain moments in the story or things like that, but as far as the representation of Spider-Man goes, oh my god, these guys got it right.
Yes.
You can tell the people making this film are like, we are Spider-Man fans. We are finally getting a hold of him. We are not going to let this go. Like, this film has 6 writers on it. And the last film that we saw that had 6 writers was The Mummy, and I made sure to stop and point out how that screwed up that entire film, because it was a bunch of people who didn't talk to each other and clearly just was like, oh, I'm going to do this as a script.
Was it 6 writers or 6 editors?
That was Transformers with 6 editors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 6 is the terrible number this year. But I was watching this, I was like, okay, either you got 6 Spider-Man fanboys in a room, and they actually talked to each other, and they hammered something out, or it's what everybody says Marvel kind of does, and Kevin Feige really just wrote this whole thing, and then they just handed the script around to 6 other people, and they went, I'll add this one joke here. I'll add this one joke here. What if we do this thing here? And like each of them gave their notes, and then Kevin Feige just kind of like filtered out the ones he didn't want and kept the ones that he wanted to use. But my point is, whoever was the big mastermind behind this, whether it was those 6 guys in the room or just Kevin Feige, they were a Spider-Man fan. Like, they got it. And I know there's going to be a lot of other Spider-Man fans out there because like, well, this wasn't accurate to the comic. Well, this wasn't right. Well, they totally got that wrong. It's like, it doesn't have to be like the comic. Accurate to Spider-Man does not mean accurate to the Spider-Man comic. It means capturing the spirit of Spider-Man, capturing what that character should be, capturing this, capturing that. It doesn't mean actually reproducing stuff. However, there are so many things in this film that are direct reproductions of the comic, and I was blown away by those moments. I will get into them later. But like, yeah, there's so many things in here that's like, dude, this is not going to be like the comic because this is not the comic book universe. Mm-hmm. This is a universe where Tony Stark has been going around for the past 8 years, like, no, a decade at this point, just being Iron Man, where the Avengers have existed, where all this existed, and now Spider-Man is popping on the scene. Yeah, of course he's going to be interacting with these guys, and of course, like, a kid who is a big fan of, I'm sorry, I just ate, I'm bleh. And of course, the kid who is a big science fan. If Tony Stark has been out there for 2 decades now at this point, as Tony Stark is the big rock star, yeah, he would want to impress that guy. He would be looking up to that guy. But for anybody out there who was like, well, it just looks like this is going to be Iron Man 3. No. 75% of the Iron Man scenes that you saw in the trailers, that's what you get in this film. Like, you've almost seen it all.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, a majority of the Iron Man and Tony Stark scenes you see in the trailer is pretty much all that there is in the actual movie. It definitely focuses more on Spider-Man.
There's like 2 other things in there, but a lot of this film is Spider-Man trying to impress Tony Stark. And I can understand that for multiple reasons. One being, like I said, this is not the world where Tony Stark became Iron Man at the same time that Spider-Man became Spider-Man. It's like, this is a world where Tony Stark has existed for 2 decades, just being the mastermind of science across the world. Yeah, Peter Parker's gonna be impressed with that. He's going to love it. But also, Peter, hey, after what happened to Uncle Ben, he is kind of looking for a father figure. Yeah. And now here comes the big science guy, and he is actually there to like go, hey kid, I'm really impressed with what you did. He's gonna want to impress that guy. And they never actually stopped to say that because this film does not want to mention Uncle Ben at all. And that is one of my critiques. I don't need to see Uncle Ben getting shot. I don't need to hear the power and responsibility thing. I don't need to hear all that again. But like, A little bit. I'll get into like, there's a perfect scene here where I thought they could have put an Uncle Ben thing in, and they didn't. So I do have a little problem with that, and I'll get into that in a second. But aside from that, the only mention of Uncle Ben you get in here is when Ned finds out that he's Spider-Man, and he says, does your aunt know? And he goes, I can't tell her after everything that she's just been through. It's like, they don't say what she's just been through, but it's because they don't need to. They know that you all mean, oh, Uncle Ben got shot, got it, cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like, is that they did not have to, like, go over the origin of Spider-Man again.
Yes.
Like, they just mentioned, like, a few things a couple of times.
This is a film where they realize you know who Spider-Man is. This is them coming in here and going, we're just going to make a Spider-Man film. But I feel like where this film ends is like the next film is going to be the origin. Because, well, okay. It's time for me to stop kind of like dancing around the spoilers for anybody who's like still hanging around. This is it, last chance. At the end of this film, like I said, there's that scene where he says, I can't tell it to Aunt May after everything that she's been through, and we all know it means Uncle Ben. At the end of this film, you see him suiting up, and he's like, yeah, I am Spider-Man. And the camera turns around, and Aunt May is standing there in the door, like looking at him, and it's like, oh my God, she's gonna know he's Spider-Man. And that's when I realized, the next film is the two of them sitting down, and then she's gonna ask him, like, well, why did you decide to do this? And then he tells him the origin story of why he decided after what happened to Uncle Ben. It's like, I got it, you save it for the next one. Cool, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, as long as the entire second movie isn't a retelling, like if it's just like a flashback or something like that, and the main focus of the movie is like the next villain or whatever.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I just gotta say this right now, Marvel, I know you're looking for who to cast as Uncle Ben. Tom Hanks. I am throwing that out there right now. First off, him and Marissa Tomei, pretty close in age, so okay. Also, you want to get the most likable actor in the world to play Uncle Ben, Tom Hanks is the most likable actor in the world. And like, well, Tom Hanks probably wouldn't do a superhero film. He'd show up for 5 minutes if you paid him enough. You could pay him to show up for 5 minutes to tell a little kid power and responsibility.
I'm pretty sure he'll be happy to go into I'm pretty sure he'll be happy to be in a superhero movie after The Circle flopped.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If he'll be in The Circle, he'll be in whatever you want. He'll be in that. Although I did see someone online suggest he should be J. Jonah Jameson, and I was like, that's freaking nuts, why would you do that? But then I thought, oh yeah, before Tom Hanks became a serious actor, he was a crazy ass goofball. Like, go back and look at early Tom Hanks stuff. He is doing voices, he's flinging his fingers all around the place.
Seriously, he just needs to like grow a mustache.
I was like, oh my God, I can totally see that. And it's like, man, that could be one of those like actor dream roles where it's like, I just get to show up and be an asshole for like 2 hours? Down, I can do it. So, okay, I will also take J. Jonah Jameson, but it's like, dude, I'm telling you, Tom Hanks as Uncle Ben. Is Tom Hanks on Twitter? Someone better tweet at him about this. Tweet Kevin Feige, get this thing in motion. But I was like, okay, so that's why you didn't mention it. But as I said, there was like one perfect moment they could have brought up Uncle Ben. It's a scene where I mentioned the imagery in here, showing like these are people who love Spider-Man. One of the most iconic Spider-Man comics of all time is a moment where he has to get a cure to his Aunt May who is dying in the hospital, and he has a giant like piece of machinery just fall on him, and like it's in this underwater base, and like it's filling up with water, it's like rising above him, and he's like, I can't, it's too heavy, and then he thinks about Aunt May and her in the hospital bed and gets the strength to lift it back up. They do that exact thing in here. Like, I freaked the fudge out when they did, because like it's not a giant machine, it's like ceiling, but the way the ceiling falls down, it looks exactly like that drawing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, I mean, look up the drawing, it like, because there's like a big beam going around and one arm underneath it, and like a thing going at an angle, I was like, that's exactly what it looks like in the comic, that's amazing. And then you've got like the water filling up, but I mean, they're not underwater, but it's like, okay, plumbing's filling up.
Plumbing. Because they were basically in like an underground parking lot.
It was a parking lot, yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, there would be plumbing in there, so it's like, even if this is not the same thing, like, you found a way to reproduce this down to the frame on how well this could be done. And he takes off the mask because he needs to breathe under there, and he throws it, which, that's another thing I have to compliment this film for. The Amazing Spider-Man films tick me the hell off, because every second that Spider-Man didn't have to be right next to another person looking directly at him, he would take that mask off and be like, hey everybody, I'm Andrew Garfield. We want to remind you, I'm Andrew Garfield. He is in this suit 90% of the film. Like, there's only 2 times he takes the mask off, and it's when he's surrounded by either smoke or he's trapped under stuff and he needs to breathe.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's the moment to take the mask off. Got it. Also, I gotta say, Tom Holland, that's his name, right? Tom Holland? Whatever. The kid playing Spider-Man. Holy cow, he acted his ass off in the scene where he was trapped under there. I was actually like, someone get that kid out of there.
I know, I was so scared for him.
I know, that's amazing. That kid pulled that off.
And I feel like that is like a great comparison to like the Avengers and everything, because like they have superpowers. They are adults. They have like these robotic machines to help them.
Spider-Man is below their pay grade.
Yes.
That is the exact phrase that Tony Stark uses. This is like, yes, that is one of the things that. It's one of the things that is. I'm gonna go on a slight DC rant here for a bit, but that's one of the things that has ticked me off about Batman so much in recent years. They're like, well, Batman has to be on the same level as Superman, so he has to have the most advanced technology in the world and all this stuff directly at his disposal at all times. Like, no, he needs to be the guy who can solve a murder mystery. That needs to be who he is. And when I saw this film, I was like, Spider-Man is Spider-Man in here. Spider-Man is not going off there to save the entire planet. Like, every single goddamn Spider-Man film, there is a giant explosion that's going to take out all of New York City. It's going to wreck the entire island of Manhattan. Everybody's being turned into lizards. There's a giant beam going into the air. Oh my goodness. The Dr. Octopus has created a miniature sun here in this thing. It's like, Spider-Man doesn't have to deal with the A-class shit in his films because he's Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the guy who stops bank robberies, and what is the big impressive thing he does? He stops a plane from crashing. For Spider-Man, that's damn impressive. He doesn't need to do anything else, and the other thing he does, he stops a criminal from getting better weapons. That's it. He does not stop this criminal from destroying all of New York City. He doesn't save all of Washington, D.C. He saves an elevator full of people in Washington, D.C. And that's the other thing that I will get back to what I was just about to say about him taking the mask off in a second. But while I'm on this, that is the third reason why I love that Tom Holland, that Spider-Man in here was trying so hard to impress Tony Stark. Because this was the film about Spider-Man wanting to be A-class. He wanted to be that big guy, which, again, was what Peter Parker was when he just started. When Peter Parker just started his powers, he became a professional wrestler because he was like, yeah, man, I want to be famous. I want to be a big shot. Because, he's the guy who's been picked on by Flash Thompson his entire life. It's like, yeah, he would want to stand up and be, I'm the greatest in the world. I want to be up there shoulder to shoulder with the Avengers. I want to be the greatest person ever. And this is the film in which he kind of learns, no, I'm not that guy. I'm not Iron Man. I'm Spider-Man. I'm the guy who saves queens. I'm the guy who stops that guy. You stop Ultron. I stop the dude dressed like a giant bird. That's my job. And it's like, you got it. This film came in here and said Spider-Man doesn't have to be able to stop the Hulk. He doesn't have to be able to go toe-to-toe with Thor. Spider-Man needs to be that guy who's trying to figure out his spot in life, and he figures out that it's him just saving New York City. It's him protecting what he can with what he has. So
yeah, like because of that, like it gave me like a bit of like a nostalgia feeling for like cartoons like Danny Phantom and stuff.
Okay, I wasn't gonna go with that, but okay, sure.
But like yeah, the whole kid trying to be a superhero, but also having to like deal with the fact that they have to go to school and that they don't have the budget or the money or anything, and they gotta keep everything a secret from their parents and teachers.
Yeah.
Like that whole idea, and that just made me nostalgic for like the cartoons like that.
I find it so interesting that you say that because like, yeah, I grew up reading Spider-Man. You were a big Danny Phantom fan when you were a kid, but it's like everybody out there at some point in your life, you had the teenage superhero that you looked up to, and they had to deal with home life, they had to deal with school, and they had to deal with like balancing all that and being a superhero. Peter Parker is who invented that. So if there's any character out there who should encompass that the most, it's the guy who invented that. It's the guy who came in and said, this is what teenage superheroes are going to be. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize, back when when Spider-Man first popped up, teenage superheroes were only sidekicks. And they had like special permission to go out there and play with their big superhero mentors, and they were fine with that, and they never had to worry about their home lives because they were a side character. Spider-Man was that first guy who came in and went, a teenage superhero can be a superhero And they can have a ton of problems because of that, because yeah, a teenager doesn't get to just go and leave because he's a reporter during his day job and gets to go and run off there and go, well, I'll go and stop that case. And it's like, no, he has to go to school. He's got to figure out how to stop crime while at school. Like, yeah, that was incredibly innovative at the time. It's like, they captured that in here.
And it's like, I really enjoy that, because like with the Marvel Universe constantly expanding, it's like, oh, everything needs to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like, let's tone it down a bit.
Yeah, I think
let's bring it back.
So many people criticize the Marvel films by saying that they're getting burned out by them, and I think what they mean when they say that is, I'm burned out of a giant light shining in the air or a giant battle happening in the sky. I'm tired of every single time that we see these heroes, the world is almost destroyed. It feels so good to have a superhero who's like, I'm just gonna stop these guys robbing the bank with some high-tech weapons. That's my job. But before I completely forget, I also mentioned there was one other piece of scenery that I lost my mind for during that scene where he was trying to lift up the giant object. When he takes the mask off and he throws it in the water, and half the mask is submerged in the water, the other half is not, and because of that, the half that's not you can see, and the other half it shows the reflection of his face. That's one of the most iconic ways that people draw Spider-Man whenever he's like whenever he's like his civilian attire and his spider sense goes off, like they'll draw half his face as Spider-Man, or whenever someone's mentioning Spider-Man around him, he's like, I can't let anyone know my secret identity. They'll draw half his face as Spider-Man. They found a brilliant way to do that. They had the half-face Spider-Man thing there, which lets me know these guys are goddamn Spider-Man fans. These are not guys who picked up one issue of a comic, saw that in there, and was like, well, I guess that's something that we put in there. These are guys who have read a butt-ton of Spider-Man issues and went, that's the thing that Spider-Man does. We have to find a way to put it in this film. Although I will say, there's one thing in here that they did not put in here that does kind of tick me off. I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man has spider sense.
Oh yeah.
It never came up in this, which that has been my biggest complaint as a Spider-Man fan with all the former Spider-Man movies, because Peter Parker's Spider-Man's spider sense is one of his weirdest powers. It's one of those things that's like, okay, spiders, they walk on walls, they shoot webs, God, they're strong, they can jump high, okay, you can do all that, cool. Spider sense is not an actual thing that spiders have. Like, it's not like, when I was a kid, I always had to kind of like rationalize it. I was like, well, I got the 8 eyes so he can maybe see in different directions. Like, eventually, a writer by the name of J. Michael Straczynski, like, in the early 2000s, he had to come in and just have this guy with other spider powers pop up and tell Peter, listen, what the hell do you think your spider sense is? You're connected to spider totems. You're connected to the animal world. That is the connection that all animal spirits kind of have on the planet. It's the power of nature connecting to you. You are an animal totem. That's where you actually get your powers from, not from some weird animal experiment. That's what spider sense is. It's nature around you warning you of this thing. And I was like, that is the only possible way to explain this crap, because it's such a weird power for him to have. But it's one of his best powers. It's one of the things that he's most known for. Like, the little things flaring up around him was like, that's iconic. And I'm not saying I want that to happen. I didn't want them to introduce magic into Spider-Man in this film. I didn't want them to come in and say he's an animal totem in this. That would have been way too weird to introduce in your first film. But when Ned was asking him about, like, well, have you ever done this? Well, have you ever done this? Like, can you spray venom? Can you summon an army of spiders? Like, that would have been the perfect time for them to go, well, what other powers do you have? Well, I have this spider sense thing. What's that? Oh, it's this thing where when I'm in danger, I get this, like, tingling feeling. It's like, finally, you could stop, turn to the camera, and go, this is what this thing freaking is. Because in the Amazing Spider-Man films, they don't mention it at all. He has it. Like, you see, like, the little, flare up. But, like, they never mention it at all in that film. Like, they just, like, assume you know. It's like, no, that is, like, the one thing that nobody, unless you are a huge Spider-Man fan, knows that's a thing. And even in the Sam Raimi films, while he's walking around the spider exhibit, it's like, this spider has a spider sense that warns him of danger. That's all they say.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then, like, when he's in the school, he gets, like, weird bullet time vision around him. I was like, this would have been, like, if there was anybody out there I trusted to get spider sense right, it would have been these guys. And instead, it just doesn't exist. Like, because tons of dangerous things are happening to him, and he has no idea about, like, he's constantly getting not taking advantage of it, but he's getting surprised by this stuff. I was like, I honestly think that they looked at Spider-Sense and went, that's too confusing for the average audience to get, so we're just not going to have it at all in here. I was like,
so.
man, people would have bought, like, that stinks. That's one of his coolest powers, and it really feels like they're just not giving it to him.
Yeah, I guess so, but like at the same time, I kind of felt like that gives him more of a challenge. And also, he kind of has like sense when he gets the upgraded suit from Tony Stark.
I guess, yeah, which that's another thing. That is one of the problems I have with this film. I really wish that at the end of this, after he realized, like, that's not me, I'm not an Avenger, which I love they turned it down, because like I said, that was the whole point of this. The point of this film was Spider-Man learning his place. It was Spider-Man learning, this is who I protect, this is my job, this is how I can be of the most use. And I also absolutely love that, like, this is one of the only times in film history in which the villain gave the hero the, we're not so different, you and I, kind of speech. And I actually listened to it and went, no, listen to this guy. And at the end of it, when he kind of goes, yeah, man, I need to kind of like protect the little guy. Yeah, part of that was him referencing when Tony Stark told him, just be a friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man. It was also him kind of going, yeah, Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, kind of had a point. Who does protect the little guy?
I kind of felt like he was also like channeling Captain America because he also was wanting to protect the little guy. It was unintentional, but.
By the way, referencing back to kind of when I said my problems with Batman, how I was like, well, he has to be able to take on anyone. I love that Tony Stark actually stopped in this film and goes, you think you could actually take on Captain America? Captain America would beat the crap out of you. I was like, listen, I would dispute that, but I love that they actually came in here and I was like, you are not in our grade yet, man. You're not up here. I love that so much.
Speaking of Captain America.
Those were good. We saw one in the trailer. I love that they brought those back, like that was a recurring thing, because they never weren't funny to me. Like, and also, this is the most accurate high school I've ever seen. Ever. In any goddamn film ever, especially the most accurate New York high school. That is the other thing that I have to say. Spider-Man has always been New York's hero. He's always been a New Yorker. This is the first Spider-Man film that captured New York the most. Like, him just going down to the bodega to get the sandwich and giving them the special instructions, and like him playing with the cat there, I was like, that's fucking New York. That's it right there. Like, you nailed it. But also, like, you see the school he goes to. It's like, that's about accurate. Yeah.
That's pretty much a regular school.
Like, yeah, that's it. It's like
a regular public school.
It's like, it's not. I know there are all those people out there. It's like, oh, why do you have to keep bringing up this representation, this social justice warrior crap? Like, shut the fuck up. This is actually important. One of the other things about the Marvel Universe is that it's kind of supposed to represent the real world plus, like, you know, superpowers. That's why they always have more problems with, like, the government and things like that in there. Because, like, yeah, the Marvel Universe is supposed to function a little bit more like the real world. And when I looked at this high school, I was like, that is a very accurate representation of what high schools in New York look like. Almost every other high school in New York, it's 90% white dudes, the one black guy on the football team, maybe an Asian kid in there, that's pretty much it. It's like, nope, this is an accurate representation. Holy smokes, way to go.
Yeah, and it's like his high school crush, Liz, she was biracial.
Yeah, she's biracial. Yeah. His best friend, listen guys, I'm going to call him Genki in here, because I know that there were a lot of Miles Morales fans out there who was like, they just stole Miles Morales' best friend Genki and made him Ned Leeds in here. Yeah, man, they straight up jacked Miles' friend. Listen, I kept thinking maybe when I see the film, they're gonna have a little bit of like something different there. He's a fan of Legos, for God's sakes. That's one of Genki's defining traits. All right, he's like, nah, man, they straight up jacked Genki. So if I call Ned Leeds Genki, I apologize, but that's just what they did, man. They did that. Oh, that does kind of frustrate me. Because don't get me wrong, Genki should absolutely be in a film, and this dude nailed the role of Genki. But Genki ain't even close to Ned Leeds. Like, Ned Leeds was kind of a douche who started dating Betty Brant after they had all graduated from college. Like, doesn't represent this guy at all. It was solely just them going, we can't just have Harry Osborn again, man. Like, we've done it too many times. We can't have Harry yet. Which honestly I'm kind of okay with, because so many people out there are like, oh, well, you know, Peter in high school, he hung out with Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn and Mary Jane. Like, literally all of them he met in college. He didn't meet any of them in high school in the comics. So I was like, okay, you want to save Harry for the second film when he's like studying for college or something? Cool, done. But yeah, what was I saying? But yeah, like his best friend Ned, MJ, which yeah, that was the other big twist that they threw in there.
Flash.
And Flash, yeah, way to go with Flash Thompson on that one. Why'd you go with that one? That was the one that I'm most impressed with, that they actually, because like, okay, you got a guy in there who is like star of the football team, and you know, well, in this they actually changed to being like the decathlon, but I was like, you know, he's also like the schoolboy. He's like typically the schoolboy you would never ever picture as, I don't know if he's Indian or Pakistani.
You want to look it up?
I don't know. I'm not gonna stop this because we are running short on time here. I'm sorry, but like, you never ever think of casting people like that for roles like that. But it's like, okay, you know what? You thought outside the box there. But also, I'm kind of happy with that because I really like that actor they cast.
Yeah.
And for anybody who knows the comics, you know that eventually Flash Thompson becomes Venom, but like the good Venom, the hero Venom. I'm like, all right, man, hold on to that guy. I like him. I can totally see him coming back. And he nailed Flash Thompson in this. Every other film that Flash Thompson has been in, Flash Thompson has always been the guy who comes in and goes, what up, Puny Parker? And then he leaves and you never ever see that dude again. He is there because it's like, hey guys, we got Flash Thompson, remember that? Flash is in this film all throughout, and he is constantly beating Peter down. Like, they never let you forget, Flash Thompson is a dick. Like, when he has the trophy, and he wants them to save the trophy instead of his life, I was like, that's Flash Thompson. You nailed it. They literally, as long as you think of Ned Leeds as Genki, they literally nailed his entire supporting cast. They got everybody in here just right. Except, and man, I'm probably like, I do not know how I feel about this. Except for, what's her name? Zendaya? I think that's her name? Like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, except for her as Mary Jane Watson. And the thing is, when I saw her, because she's not in my age demographic, I don't pay attention to who this person is. But when they said, oh, they cast her in this film as a major character, I looked at her and I went, you know what? She looks kind of like somebody who likes to party. She looks like somebody who actually is kind of like young and hip and fashionable. They cast her as Mary Jane Watson. I'm totally down with that. And then we saw the trailers, and she was like some like, whatever, I don't care. Like, just she talked shit to everybody. She was kind of a weird loner. She just talked crap to everyone. I was like, okay, so it's not Mary Jane. It definitely isn't that. And as I'm watching, it's like, okay, she's also kind of a nerd. She's also kind of smart. She's also kind of quirky. Gwen Stacy. But at the end of this film, you say that Michelle is like her middle name, and it's actually Gwen Stacy, and like her name is like Gwen Michelle Stacy.
But it's like,
I'd be okay with that. Then they go, oh, my friends call me MJ. And I was like, I like your character, so much, but you aren't even close to Mary Jane Watson. But like I said, if you had just called her Gwen Stacy, I would have totally been down with that. Like that, you know what? Not exactly like Gwen Stacy, but close enough that I'm like, you know what? Interesting, updated version of her. It's like, yeah, this is not even close to Mary Jane. But at the same time, I really like the character they created.
Yeah.
So if they want to come in and go, her and Peter are going to develop a relationship, like I said, I thought she was Gwen, so I was already rooting for that. It's just weird that it's like, man, you aren't even close to Mary Jane. Like, I get that you didn't want to make her like Mary Jane, because then people would, like I said, I saw the actress and went, that's Mary Jane Watson. If you had made the character like Mary Jane, I think people would have been just sitting there as like, it's Mary Jane, reveal you're Mary Jane, your name is Michelle, we totally are going to know that like it's Michelle Jane or something. It's like, okay, fine. So I know they wanted to really trip us up, and they did. That was a shocker. No pun intended. But it's like, man, really not even kind of close to Mary Jane. But it's like, still, I'm very torn on it, because I love the character, and she nailed that character.
I do. I like her too. Then again, I'm biased because my name is Michelle, and I was also kind of like that in high school too. So
I was actually thinking like, this is probably what she is like. Yeah, man, I really love that character. And if you had called her Gwen, I would have been 100% behind it. But it's just, oh man, it's just Mary Jane Watson is so just not like that character. So I'm like, it's not like I'm saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad, because the character's good, the actress is good. I really look forward to her being in the future films, and who knows what they could do with her in the future films.
So if they just changed Ned and MJ's names, you'd think
I would have been, like, nobody would get, well, no, because there would still be people mad that it's like, you stole Miles' friend, and it's like, again, yeah, man, you got a right to be mad about that. I ain't gonna come in here and tell you you're wrong on that. Like, yeah, they stole Miles' buddy in here, but I think that if they had kept the name, people wouldn't have been as angry. Because if you kept the name, you know, like I've been saying from like day one with this, is like, I'm totally cool with Genki being in this film because then you just have to come in here, film number 2, Miles Morales is here. Hey, Miles forms a friendship with Genki. Now they're all one big buddy system. Cool, down with that. Yeah, it's just the fact that it's like, man. But it's like, yeah, it is just kind of like, man, you stole his friend. It's like, yeah, so I think people still would have been mad about that. And people still would have been mad about Zendaya being in here just something because it's like, there's a bunch of jerk-ass douchebags on the internet who's just like, I don't want the high school to be all white people. By the way, for anybody who's gonna come in here and say, well, I didn't have those critiques, you might not have, but a lot of people did. We saw those tweets online. We know those complaints exist. So it's like, there would have been people mad no matter what, is what I'm trying to say. But there wouldn't have been people out there like me if they had changed her to Gwen, because it's like, yeah, Mary Jane, like, first off, I don't give a shit about her hair color. Like, a lot of people are like, well, Mary Jane is iconic for being a redhead. No, shut the fuck up. That is not what's important about her character. That's just how she looked, all right? It doesn't matter. I grew up with a Spider-Man who was blonde, for crying out loud. You can change hair colors. It is solely just the fact that it's like, she's not the party girl in this. She is, in fact, the exact opposite of the party girl. She's the one who's like, I don't give a shit about this party. I'm still here for some reason. It's like, so yeah.
I'm here for the food.
Yeah. I love that when she pops up at the party, it's like, wow, I can't believe that you losers actually showed up to this thing. It's like, why are you here? I don't know. It's like, yeah, she is such a great character. It's just that she's so not Mary Jane. But I could totally buy her as Gwen, and that's what's sticking me out. If I couldn't buy her as any character, it's like, all right, she's just her own original thing, whatever. It's the fact that I could totally buy her as kind of a more punk rockish Gwen, which is what Spider-Gwen is in her alternate universe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's kind of a punk rocker. So like, I could so have bought her as Gwen Stacy. It's just that it's Mary Jane, who I can't buy her as. But still, it's like, you don't know what they're gonna do in the next film. In the next film, she might be more like, you know what? Me and Pete were hooking up, and it's like, I have been kind of too stuck up about this stuff. Like, okay, I'm gonna throw a party. I kind of like throwing parties. It's like, all right, so maybe, but yeah, all right, but whatever. That's gonna be the most like nerdy complaint that I have. But speaking of another complaint that I started to complain, and then we got off topic. About, which we've been doing all throughout this. Normally we do it in the post Geekout reaction when we get off topic. I've been doing it so much during this one because it's my guy. This is my thing that I do with this guy. I did not like that he kept the suit at the end, because I kind of wish that when he got home and like after turning down Tony Stark, which I loved, I kind of wish that he had like gone to the sewing machine and kind of started actually making his own Spider-Man suit, and they had one there at the end. Didn't look quite as good, but it did look like the Spider-Man design, because I don't want him to have an AI onboard system.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I don't want him to have like.
I understand what you mean, but like at the same time, it's like a homemade Spider-Man costume doesn't look as cool.
I know, that's the other thing. I fully realize for what I'm pitching here, it would be a downgrade in design. I get that.
And it's like since when was there was never any mention of Spider-Man being able to know how to sew, so.
Well, that was one of the things that I loved about the early Spider-Man books, is that you actually saw him having to learn to sew to make his suit. So I was like,
yeah, but like
if
not
he had to try and figure it out.
Yeah, like not in the movies though, or
I get
anything.
it. It's one of those things where it's like people would have been questioning how did he make that suit there.
Yeah, it's like when I remember like when watching the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, he was like looking up on Bing what kind of spandex suits to get. So it's like
the product placement in here is way better. I will
yes,
say
it
that.
is.
I'm sure they were using some Sony phones or Sony computers, but I didn't. They went by so quickly I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm fine with you having a name brand on your phone, because like we all have name brands on our phone. No one has the phone that doesn't say a name brand on there, so it's like fine, do it, whatever. I did kind of laugh that when the credits started for this, Sony was the first name that came up, and I was like, I'm just laughing because I'm picturing them actually going into the negotiations for this, and it's like, we gotta be first in this thing. Like, that's the one thing they held on to. And Marvel was just like, sure,
fine, whatever. We just want Spider-Man.
People will know who actually made this. you can take the credit. Sure.
No, it's like, I love that it's like just the Sony sign, but then you have the Marvel logo, which is
It
like...
wasn't, it was like the, oh god, what was it? It's the Torch Lady thing.
Oh, the Columbia?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, the Sony logo is so simplistic in this. But yeah, so I wish that, it's just, I don't want him having an onboard AI system. I don't like that he's that high tech.
I understand.
But it's like, you know, because again, I think he kind of like, he needs to be the guy who's a little bit more downgrade. But also, them giving him an onboard AI system, I kind of feel like that's them going, we're not making any more Iron Man films. You're going to be our Iron Man now. You're going to have the onboard AI system. How did you feel about Michael Keaton as the Vulture?
I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I was actually really darn impressed. It's his motivations. Here's the thing, he is very similar to so many other films we got, but he's just different enough to make him stand out. And also, Michael Keaton really did a great job in this. I really dug him in this. I am kind of mad because I think he'd be a way better Norman Osborn. Like, I think he would nail the Green Goblin, and especially Norman Osborn. But he did a great job in here as this character. And this character is very different, I feel, from, well, not that different actually, because Adrian Toomes in the comic was just a rich businessman who decided to make a suit and commit crimes. But he was just a super greedy guy. This guy...
He actually has motivation.
He actually has motivation. But at the same time, he's running a crime organization.
Yeah.
He runs it like a business. Like, I love that he actually has to let people go. I love that he actually has, like, his R&D department. Like, he runs his crime organization like a business. So I was like, you are keeping that from the Vulture in the actual comics, which I will say, I was also kind of nervous that they were picking the Vulture because the Vulture is one of my least favorite Spider-Man villains. I hate that character. Partly because his costume is garbage. If you have ever seen his costume in the comics, it is literally just a solid green one-piece long john with a furry neck and the big wings. And I was like, dude, that looks like crap. This design looks good.
Yeah,
I love this design.
He actually has like
he's wearing a bomber jacket.
Yes,
and that's
so
why he's got
why he's got the feathers.
And also, like, he's got the little, like, the mask, and that kind of looks like a beak. And it's like, but it makes sense. He needs air up there. He needs an oxygen tank. So I was like, this is freaking brilliant. Way to go. And the wings, man, there's that scene where he's just standing on the big sign with the wings flying around.
Yeah, it's like,
that is an awesome shot.
Yeah, it's like, this is why he's called the Vulture.
He looks so good.
And he also has, like, the talons on his feet.
That's so cool. Like, those, when he is pressing down on Peter Parker, I was like, that looks painful. That legit looks like this kid is in pain at that. But the other reason why I always just kind of hate the Vulture is because, yeah, his motivation is just like, I'm old and greedy. I want money. And it's like, this was like, no, he's actually good. Like, he got fucked over in a really public manner for not doing anything, for just trying to run a legit business.
Yeah, he was basically part of the cleanup committee after the first Avengers movie.
And another thing that I love is that I had always kind of questioned the timeline of these films. Do they move in real time, or is it like comics where it's like, if you're not seeing them on screen, time isn't moving. Like, Iron Man 3 took place 2 days after Avengers 1. And then the next Thor film took place at the exact same time as that. And then Winter Soldier was like 2 weeks later, and then 2 weeks after that, Avengers 2. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, or does this actually move in time? And so I love that after you see them clean that up, and they get that entire job taken away from them, it then just goes 8 years later. And I was like, oh! Okay, that answers that question. I totally understand that now.
Yeah, because like when they first open up, they show like a little kid's drawing of the Avengers, and it's like, is that supposed to be Peter Parker's drawing? Because that's really crappy for someone who's supposed to be in high school.
Oh, man, when you say it like that, it does... Oh, shit. That just made me realize that was Liz's drawing. Yeah, by the way, for anybody out there who's still wondering what the hell I was talking about at the beginning of this, that was the thing. When it showed him doing like the dress up montage to get ready for homecoming, that's when I'm like, alright, fine, now I can go and pee. I came back, and he's in the car with Liz, and the Vulture's in the front seat driving them, and I was like, so did he know, when did he find out he was Peter Parker, and how did he set up to be the limo driver for them? And then when she finally said, come on, Dad, and I went, oh, snap!
Yeah, you were pretty late. It's like...
It was like 2 minutes of me watching this like, what the fuck is going on?
No, like he went up to her house and knocked on the door, and the Vulture answered it. So it's like...
I literally loved as he was going up the stairs.
Yes, you just
God
missed
damn
it. Okay, but like here's the thing: when
That's hilarious.
when the Vulture answered the door, I thought, oh no, he found out it was Peter Parker and that he has a crush on Liz, so he's holding her hostage, and that's why he's there. It's like, no, he's actually the dad, which makes it even worse because like, oh god, he has to like,
Yeah.
he has to fight off his crush's father. It's just.
Any guy out there who's ever been on a first date and had to be chaperoned by the girl's dad, you have had that terrifying one-on-one moment with the dad. I love they turned that into an actual superhero, supervillain moment.
Mm-hmm.
That is so freaking good. But yeah, so I thought that was a great twist to do in there with him. But yeah, just thinking about it, it makes me think back to that scene with the drawing. It's like, that was Liz's drawing. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I also love that they jumped ahead by 8 years because it's like, it might make you think, okay, well, at the end of this, they discover, after they realize they've been screwed over so bad, they realize they forgot to unload one of the Chitauri's warships from the back of their pickup truck after they got told they were off the job, and they realize that the stuff can do a lot of damage, and they were like, what should we do with this? And then it goes to 8 years later, it's like, we don't need to see the progress of him becoming a villain. We know he's going to become a villain. Starting point, we know why he's here. Done. That's all we need. We did not need to see that entire progress. And because it jumped ahead by 8 years, yeah, you can fill it in with all the gaps you want. Like, you know how that could have led to that. That worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it's like they were also like, they also mentioned like getting the alien technology from the Berlin, was it?
It was, no, it was Ultron stuff from
Yes, the Ultron, yeah, that's...
From Sokovia.
Sokovia, yeah, so like they mentioned that, it's like, oh!
Yeah, again, this to me in a way kind of works the same way that Civil War worked. Because in Civil War, it was like, okay, here's the ramifications of all those giant ass battles and everything about. This one is very much that too, because it's them going, yeah, okay, we know about, from Civil War, we know about all the people who died because of these things, all the destruction and everything caused by it. What happens to all that expensive alien crap after it's gone? This guy, much like a vulture, comes in and picks up the carcass. It's like, damn, you even come with a good reason to call him the Vulture in this. So yeah, I am just blown away by how smart that was. Man, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, man, the more I'm thinking about this, more like this is just a clever ass script.
Another, speaking of clever, is like when he went to like Liz's house party in the suburbs, and he finds out that there's crime going on back in like the city. It's like, oh crap.
No, it's still in the suburbs, but, but he's still like, it is, again, that was the first moment in here in which I realized these guys are Spider-Man fans. Because it's not one of the most famous ones out there, but to all the Spider-Man fans out there, it's one that we all hold a fond spot on her. There was a storyline, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was like Spider-Man goes to the suburbs, where he did have to stop a crime in the suburbs. And yet, it is just nothing but an entire issue of him getting the crap kicked out of him. I don't mean like actually fighting villains and crap. I mean just life shitting on him. Because it is him, like, he jumps on a bus to get out there, and then the bus stops and he goes, what are you doing on my bus? Get out and get out this thing. Like, they let me do this on the trains in the city. Okay. And they're like, well, fine, I'll web swing. Oh, and it's like literally him just running through the suburbs where there's nothing to swing on or anything. And as I walked to him trying to get around the suburbs, like, this has to be a reference to that. Like, no way did they just think of this on their own. Like, this has to be a reference to that.
I also like how they reference like Ferris Bueller. Like,
that was smart.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I see the connection here.
That's so good. So yeah, that was a whole great segment. And like, all right, we've been talking about Adrian too, talking about the supporting cast. Which, okay, before I totally get off the villains, I don't think that I love in here is that normally we complain, oh, there's too many villains in these films. A Spider-Man film, I'm okay with him having a lot of villains in there as long as you do it right. Yeah. Because 90% of Spider-Man's villains are not the star of a movie. Mm-hmm. He only has a handful of villains who should be the star of a film. And the rest of them are the guys who try and rob the bank. Yeah. And like, yeah, the Shocker is not a guy who should be the star of a film. But a guy working underneath the guy who's the star of the film, he's just got a power gun, and you have a one fight scene with him that lasts for 5 minutes, that's exactly what he should be. And that's exactly what they use him in here. And they also have the Tinkerer, who is a guy who is not like a guy who fights for him, but he just makes the weapons for everybody else. He's there making the weapons for everybody else. And there's a moment in which they're meeting up with a villain there on the bus. It's like, yeah, of course he'd be, not the bus, the boat. And it's like, yeah, of course he'd be working hand in hand with other criminals around the city, and they go, it's Matt Gargan. It was like, Matt Gargan is the Scorpion. Oh my goodness. Like, yeah, not a big guy in here. He doesn't get the big robot tail after you start fighting Spider-Man in this, but it's like, you're setting up your other guys. And I don't know if they meant to do this, but the post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, which I will say this, I think that out of all the Marvel mid-credit and post-credit scenes, this one's kind of the weakest.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really set up anything. It just explains he's not going to reveal that he knows who Spider-Man is, which is like, we kind of already figured that out. Like, I don't think you need to tell us that, but there was that moment which Matt Gargan comes up to him and is like, I got guys on the outside, we're going to do some work together. And I was like, you got the Shocker, you got the Scorpion, you got Vulture. That's half the Sinister Six right there. Like, granted, they're not the most famous members of the Sinister Six, but like, that's half the job done right there. I could totally see in the next film they get 3 more guys in there. So, yeah, I think they might be trying to set up the Sinister Six. Maybe for like the 3rd film, I think would probably work. Like, it might be too much to add in.
Yeah,
the guys
I think
get back.
so.
Yeah. Plus, Sony really wants to make that Venom film, and now they have to figure out a way to make that all work in there. God damn, that's going to be canon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you have not watched up the interview in which Kevin Feige is sitting down with the Sony representative, and she's like, and it's going to be connected to the Marvel Universe. It's a very exciting thing. Just watch Kevin Feige's face and it's like, we're doing that, yeah, okay. Like, alright, great. But I think they're not really going to try and tie him in that much, but I could see, like, okay, well, now we got to stop the second film at some point to talk about that, but yeah, I think the second film is going to be some other villain, and then the final film, it'll be like some new villain, Norman Osborn, somebody getting 5 other villains that we've seen in the previous films together for this. So I think that could be cool, because, like, man, Sony has wanted to do the Sinister Six for so long. But yeah, I love that the Shocker is in here just to be, like, the Shocker. Just to be the guy who fights Spider-Man, gets beat up, that's it. In fact, in the beginning, when he's stopping the criminals from robbing the ATM, all I could think was, please let it be revealed those are the superior foes. There's a group of villains called the Superior Foes, and Spider-Man's lamest ass villains all working together. And they weren't even really villains. They were the star of their own series. It was like a 16-issue long series called The Superior Foes of Spider-Man. And it was just, what is the world of the Marvel Universe like to the D-list villains out there who are just trying to rob a bank and get home on time? Like, and it was just them getting their ass kicked for like every single one of those issues. And I'm like, please let that be them. Please let that be Boomerang. Please let that be Speed Demon. Please let that be all these losers. But yeah, we've been talking about the villains. How do you feel about Tom Holland as Spider-Man? And again, I'm very much hoping I'm getting his name right.
I really liked it. Like I said, like in the second, in this what was it, Civil? I'm getting all
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting all my Marvel movies mixed up. There's too
Civil
many.
War was the other one he was in.
Yeah, it's like I said in the Civil War is like best representation of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I still feel like he keeps the spirit of Spider-Man in this one too.
Yeah, and I was nervous because like him in Civil War was the best Spider-Man we've ever gotten. However, he was there for 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's easy to be real good for 5 to 10 minutes. Let's see how you do for an entire film. I think you got it.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, this is the story of Peter Parker when he was just starting out and he wanted to be a big shot. And it's him kind of learning to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but it's like, yeah man, I got it. Like, so many people said, well, Tobey Maguire was the best Peter Parker, Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man. And it's like, I agree with that. However, Tobey Maguire was crybaby Peter Parker. Like, I hate putting it like that. I really do. But it's like, man, Tobey Maguire could cry like a professional. He was not that interesting. Like, that was his one thing as Peter Parker, though. His one thing as Peter Parker was, I can't, Uncle Ben. I can't do it. Like, I can't be with you, Mary Jane. I can't. It's too much. Like, oh, no, I can't do that, Aunt May. It's like, that was his whole thing. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, that was his thing. It's like, don't get me wrong. That's part of Peter Parker, but there's a lot else to that character. I feel like they got him in this.
Yeah.
I feel like it was. Like, there's so many moments in here which I was like, that's like 16-year-old Peter Parker. That is like Peter Parker when he just started out. That got it. And it's like, there are the moments where he's like trying to prove himself, which was what he was like when he was a kid. But there's other moments where it's like he's very nervous and trying to figure this stuff out. Like, I've always thought about like I've always kind of compared Spider-Man to Superman by saying Superman is the really cool guy who has to pretend like he's a loser when he's Clark Kent. Spider-Man is the loser who has to pretend like he's the cool guy when he's Spider-Man. And there's the moment where he goes to stop the bank robbery scene, and he walks in there, and he's like trying to figure out what to do with his hands for his intro.
He's like trying to be like have a super cool pose, like
yeah,
hey.
like that's Spider-Man. It's the guy who's trying to figure out how to be cool. That's him. So yeah, that oddly enough, that was the moment that sold me on. But it's like there's so many other moments, like him, like I said. Him talking to the guys at the bodega, and when he just gives the sandwich order, I love that he didn't just go number 5. I love he goes number 5. No pickles, and could you squish it really flat? Like no pickles, fine. Squish it really flat is like a very specific like thing, like kind of like an anal retentive kind of thing. Like yeah, Peter's a nerd. Peter's a nerd, and nerds would kind of like things the way they like them. So I was like, yeah, that's such a small touch. But also, that montage of him saving people in New York City there at the end, like I said, they got that this is the New York superhero, and Peter Parker is the hero of New York. Yeah, man, that entire montage is just like, that's him. That's New York. That's New York's hero right there. Like, this to me is one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos, because Stan Lee is the guy who's like, I'm going to make New York home of all these superheroes. This is the most New York Stan Lee we've ever seen. Because, like, it's when the car alarm goes off and everybody pokes their head out, like, hey, I got work in the morning. Hey, what are you doing over there? Leave that guy alone. It's like, just everybody yelling from the windows, like, that's New York. And then Stan Lee pokes his head out and was like, hey, come out. Stop that, you punk. And then he sees the lady across the street. He's like, hey, Agnes, how's your mother? It's like, that's a very New York character right there. So I love seeing that. Man, yeah, it was, oh, God. It feels good that they got so many things right in this. Don't get me wrong, like I said, I've got some complaints in here.
But the good definitely outweighs the bad.
Yeah, far from it. But it's like, this is one of those things that makes me realize, yeah, I've kind of lightened up on my Spider-Man fanboyism when I see a movie, because it's like, I can critique some things. And like, yeah, one of the things is like, Peter Parker was really dumb with that bomb they found, like just smashing this glowing thing with a hammer. And I kept telling myself, he's not being dumb because he's got spider sense. If something was wrong, it would go off. Like, any moment now, Ned Leeds or Genki is going to ask him, like, should we really be doing this? And he's going to go, nah, man, it's okay. It's one of my weirder powers. I got this danger sense. It's not going off right now, so we're not in danger. It's fine. It's like, okay, so they'll explain it that way, but they never explained it. It's like, well, he has the spider sense, so that explains it. Then when the suit tells him, yeah, it's a bomb, it's going to go off any moment, I was like, you two are just idiots. Like, so that entire thing with the bomb, I was like, you're really stupid for doing this. Like, I gotta critique you on that one. That was
But
really...
they're just like high school kids, and high school kids do make mistakes. They make dumb mistakes.
That was the other kind of way that I was able to justify it. So I was like, no offense to any high schoolers out there, but it's like, trust me, I'm 10, 15 years your senior. When you get to my age, you will look back on all the smart things you did and be like, oh, shoot, that was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I can see a high schooler kind of being like, no, I know what I'm doing. Bang, bang, bang. Although I love that they broke that thing in shop class and the teacher just did not give a crap. He wasn't even looking up. I was like, again, accurate depiction of high school. Or the coach who was just like, yeah, I gotta show you these things. I don't care. It's like, again, accurate depiction of high school. Oh shoot. The other thing I was gonna say about high school, I love he's making the web fluid in Kim class.
Yeah.
That was so good, because that was another thing that was like, I bought it from the comics, because like, yeah, you know, he was really into science, so I can see his aunt and uncle buying him all these science things.
Yeah.
But we're not getting the introduction to his aunt and his uncle in this. They're throwing us right in there. So if you just saw him with all this chemistry stuff in his room, it'd be kind of weird. So I'm totally fine with this. So I'm not only am I totally fine with that, I love that, yeah, he just made this stuff in class. That works so well. Shoot, we are getting down to the wire on this. Anything else that you want to bring up?
I don't think so.
I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah,
I know there's so much more in here that I want to talk about. You know what? There's one thing that I did not mention. How much more time we got? Okay, I gotta make this quick. That button, that killed some time. Alright, I mentioned there's one moment in here where they really could have fit Uncle Ben in really damn well. And it's when he's having to lift the giant thing up.
Oh, yeah.
Because you hear Tony Stark's voice come in and say, if you're nothing without the suit, you're nothing at all. Which I love, because that kind of like, it ties this universe together, because I heard somebody saying, it's like, isn't Tony Stark just a guy in a suit? Like, how is he saying this? It's like, I'm sorry, has everyone forgotten Iron Man 3 happened? That entire film, he does not have access to his suit. It's him just as Tony Stark down the same day. It's like, yeah, I totally see Tony Stark having to give this lesson to someone else, because he himself had to learn it. He had to learn, what am I when I don't have the suit? So it's like, perfect, awesome. But it's like, he says that, and I was like, okay, I know somebody out there is going to go, well, this is just Peter Parker still trying to prove himself. Tony Stark is like, no, this is Peter Parker understanding what he's saying. When he's trying to pick the thing up, he's going, come on, Spidey, come on, Spidey. It's him finally going, I don't need that suit, I need me. I don't have a suit right now, I have Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man, come on, Spider-Man. It's like, I love that moment so much.
I am Spider-Man even though I don't have the suit.
Exactly.
I don't need the suit to be Spider-Man.
Exactly, so that's what that message was. It was not him trying to prove himself to Tony Stark. However, I would also love it if then it had flashed to like Adrian Toomes saying, it's like, I will kill you and everyone you know, then flash to Aunt May giving him like, hitting them at the tie place saying, I love you, like all that stuff. And then like had one quick thing, like just a voice, not even showing a face, but just a voice of some older guy going, Peter, with great power. And then you see him like lift it off. Like don't even finish it, because we all know it in our head, but then we'll go, Uncle Ben, right there, they got it. Like I would have loved it if they had done that. But yeah, I really don't have any other critiques. Another positive I'll say though, speaking of like his love interest in there, this is the only Spider-Man film I can think of where he does not have to save damsels in distresses.
Yes.
Like, I hate that about the other films, that every single Sam Raimi film, Mary Jane's gotta get in trouble. Oh, Mary Jane might die in this scene. Oh, Mary Jane's gotta be the big thing threatened at the in-fight scene. Every single Amazing Spider-Man scene. Oh, Gwen Stacy might die in this, except for the second one where she did. But it's like every single big thing is like, oh, Gwen Stacy's in trouble now. What's Peter gonna do to save Gwen Stacy? In this one, he saves Liz once, but he has to save the entire class. So it's, yeah, he has to save the entire class. Fine. And then there's that moment where his suit says, this is your moment, kiss her. And I was like, this is kind of gonna be like a reference back to like that first Spider-Man film where he kissed her upside down. I was like, nope, they just cut that off right there and he falls. But yeah, at the end of this, he doesn't have to save the woman he loves. He has to be a superhero that saves the city, or, you know, saves a plane from crashing into the city. And he has to stop the bad guys. Like, his motivation in this is not save the woman I love, and the woman he loves is not there just to be the woman he loves. He actually goes in there to be a superhero. That's his motivation, that's what he does. So yeah, hands down the best Spider-Man film. I don't know if it's not, even though I'm a massive Spider-Man fan, I don't think this is going in my top 5 favorite superhero films of all time, but that is a tough list at this point to crack. Top 10 though, I would say. It's in my top 10. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for checking out the post Geekout reaction. As I said, I will have the official review coming up in just a few days. Make sure that you follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. Sorry I'm talking so fast, but we gotta get out of here. So thank you guys very much. Come back next time. Bye.